Hey, Goober. Goober. Off he goes. One away, one forced, one. Unlawful detentions and arrests account for the majority of lawsuits against the police. This is why I spend my time analyzing the pattern and practice of police making unlawful detentions and arrests, as well as critiquing those who are subjected to the same. Important lessons can be learned from both parties. I showed this in my last video when I discussed C plus R plus C, and there'll be some discussion on that again, but this time I just feel compelled to go back and review the responses of the gentleman who was falsely arrested for failing to ID, Mr. Land. I'm not going to beat up on Mr. Land, not a chance. I'm not going to negotiate a minefield, at least not voluntarily. I'm not in the mood for that this morning. He did things right, but he could have done things better. It's not even so much what he said was wrong. If he had just said a few more words to nail down what he was trying to get across to Deputy Tanner Walden, the one who made the false arrest. If all I did was just put out video after video showing, well, here's what the cops do wrong and they're bad cops, and well, that's got value, but you're not seeing the entire picture. By analyzing the responses of the person who was falsely arrested, it exposes their weak spots in terms of their knowledge of the law. Well, now I can help go back and fill in the weak spots. Besides, is it better to have information you don't need or to need information you don't have? The more information you have, the more confident you're going to be during the interaction. Confidence spooks bad cops. They don't like confident people. They want people shaking and gulping and stuttering. And if you know the law, you're going to know when the officer's speaking bullshit, that you know how to address the bullshit. Knowing what you're talking about, if that gets the cop to rock back on their heels, you may have just prevented a false arrest. Oh, but here's yet another unforeseen benefit of knowing the law. During the interaction, right up to the point where there's a false arrest, the person who's about to be falsely arrested is telling the officer the law because they know it and they're confident in their knowledge. This is where filming the police becomes so incredibly important because you need to have video documentation of the interaction. Why? Besides the fact that knowing the law could prevent a false arrest, if there is a false arrest and there's a video documentation of it, and it captures what you were telling the cop and what the cop was saying to you, and it comes out that you were right and the cop was wrong, you will never have to see the inside of a courtroom or put money down for an attorney. I don't care how corrupt the local prosecutor is, they're not going to want to take a case like that in front of a judge or jury or increase the likelihood that it might show up mysteriously on the 10 o'clock news. In the spirit of increasing our knowledge of the law, I'm going to continue to critique the responses of the people who've been falsely arrested along with the actions of the officer leading up to the false arrest. It has to be done if we're going to increase our knowledge of the law, but I promise you this, I'll be gentle. This is where it begins. That's the test the officers have to pass in order to conduct a lawful detention. I want you to try to remember that legal test, as in that's not the legal test officer. That's not the legal test officer. When you watch a YouTube video or you actually have to deal with an officer who's going down that you're detained because you're suspicious, you're detained because of suspicious activity, this is the phrase that you use, then backed up by the law, to drag them out of that bullshit of suspicion and back under the umbrella of the law. The legal test for a lawful detention is RAS, reasonable articulable suspicion. Although many people know that, my question is, do they know what the definition of RAS is? RAS is defined as facts and circumstances that would lead a reasonable officer to conclude that a particular person has committed, is committing, or is about to commit a particularized crime. When police make a probable cause arrest, they don't arrest people for crime. They have to articulate a specific crime, a particular or particularized crime. DUI, reckless driving, domestic violence, poaching a deer. The same applies to making a lawful detention. In 1963, in downtown Cleveland, Ohio, the suspicious behavior of three men had captured the attention of 30-year veteran detective Joseph McFadden. Based on his observations and many years of experience, Detective McFadden concluded the men were about to commit the crime of a strong-arm robbery. The men were subsequently detained, and during a pat-down frisk, Detective McFadden located a pistol in the shirt pocket of one of the men. That man's name was John W. Terry. Terry v. Ohio. American police have been abusing the shit out of it ever since.
Hey, we took a call saying that you might be sleeping out here.
Officer, I don't talk to the police and I'd like to be left alone.
No, I was laying down for a minute.
Oh, okay.
Laying on my back.
Oh, okay.
Looking at the sky.
Okay. You got your ID with you?
No, I don't.
Okay. What's your name, ma'am?
Am I doing something illegal?
Well, we got called here for suspicious activity, so I got an ID.
That's not the legal test, officer. By law, you're required to articulate a specific crime. That's not the legal test, officer. By law, you're required to articulate a specific crime. That's not the legal test, officer. By law, you're required to articulate a specific crime. I wasn't counting. I just did that while I was making the video. Deputy Walden made 3 requests for ID in 24 seconds. He equated it with suspicious activity. I responded to 3 bullshit requests by Deputy Walden, and it took me 17 seconds. Unlawful demand for ID based upon mere suspicion. That's not the legal test, officer. By law, you're required to articulate a specific crime. That's not the legal test, officer. By law, you're required to articulate a specific crime. You want to shake them up a little bit more? That's not the legal test, officer. By law, you're required to articulate a specific crime. And that's according to Terry v. Ohio and Brown v. Texas. Bam! You're welcome, America! And I have to make a comment about those who think that saying suspicion is that be the felony or the misdemeanor. Suspicion? That be the felony or the Stop saying it. It doesn't work. And the reason it doesn't work is it doesn't move the needle from mere suspicion to the law, and you have to have the law on your side. Had Mr. Land known about this little bit of very highly retainable information, it might have prevented this. Stay frosty, America. The police are lurking everywhere, and they hate your constitutional rights.